Good morning, everybody. How are you? Welcome to a Traefik Online Meetup. I'm Patricia Dugan, and I'm so happy to be here with you today. Today we have a super special guest, but first let me tell you about Traefik Online Meetups. Traefik Online Meetups showcase ways companies and developers are solving interesting technical challenges using Traefik. If you're not familiar, we have Traefik, Mesh, and Yagi, open source products. And we also have Traefik Enterprise Edition, which you'll want to take a look at because it has fantastic features. Today, we're going to be talking with Will Lopez of Mailchimp, who is specialized on the reaction commerce platform. He's a super cool dude who does super cool stuff. You'll also want to go to our events page so that you can see what we have coming up. We have a meetup with Pure Storage, VMware, and several other people. And it's looking to be a great season of meetups with us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the GitHub link so you can see Will's work and participate on GitHub. And we welcome you to ask questions in the chat box. And now I'm going to pass the microphone over to Will, and he's going to show you the coolest demos of how they are empowering Mailchimp services using the reaction commerce platform. So enjoy the show. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you soon. See you in the chat box. Bye.
Well, thank you, Patricia, for having me be able to be part of this meetup. Definitely excited to share with you all about what we are working on at Reaction Commerce. And some of you might know or not, but we were recently acquired by Mailchimp. And so now we are owned and work for Mailchimp, and definitely very exciting to start that journey. And yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Sorry about that, just having some technical difficulties, but I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we can start with our demo. Like Patricia said, definitely it's a great honor to be able to present on Traefik and share a little bit about what we're working at Reaction Commerce. So let's get started. We'll start. And the title of my talk is Easily Deploying Reaction Commerce, which is a services-based architecture commerce stack for and we're going to use Traefik and DigitalOcean as our host. And a little bit about me. Name is Will Lopez, and then I'm a software engineer at Reaction Commerce and Mailchimp. You can find me at Twitter and GitHub. You can see the links there, and I believe at the end we'll share the slides of this presentation. So a little bit about Reaction Commerce. And Reaction Commerce, it's been around for about 5 years. So, and sorry, I'm trying to find my mouse. 1 second. Okay, here we go. So Reaction Commerce, so we've been around 5 years, and we are a headless commerce platform based on using Node.js, React GraphQL, and microservices. And can be deployed using Docker, Kubernetes, and wanted to share a little bit about the website. So if you all are interested, you can go and find more information about our platform here at reactioncommerce.com. Read about the news about getting acquired, and we have some clients. Our target audience is mid-enterprise businesses, but this platform can also be used for small-scale deployments, such as small web stores and et cetera. So let's keep going. And so we had a dilemma that we wanted to, the reason we had a dilemma at Reaction Commerce, because we wanted to be able to deploy the Reaction platform, and it has a lot of services, you'll see later on in the presentation. Because of that, we needed to be able to find a way to interconnect all the services together and also expose them out to the public. And the main purpose of this particular deployment that I'm presenting on today is for companies or individuals seeking to evaluate reaction commerce as a platform and determine whether they want to use it for their particular project or not. And so to do that, the best way to do that is to actually deploy it somewhere and play around with it, install all the services. And out of that need, I took the lead on creating this deployment strategy for reaction commerce. And I had tried to use other services to proxy the traffic to all the different microservices, but it was very difficult. And then I came across Traefik too, and this is why I'm here today presenting to you all how Traefik 2 really makes it easy. And that was my experience. So I was able to run a prototype fairly quickly within the first couple of minutes of just finding out about Traefik. And there's some of the things that I really like about Traefik is that they have great documentation, and the big win for me was being able to integrate Let's Encrypt and getting SSL certificates very easy. And with Traefik 2.0, the architecture became a lot more flexible with the addition of middlewares and other configuration enhancements, such as using YAML for the Traefik configuration. And also it has a great dashboard. So these are some of the main points of why we chose to use Traefik version 2. So let's talk a little bit about the objective of this deployment. Like I mentioned earlier, this is not meant to be a production grade deployment, but it's more of an evaluation for evaluation purposes. So the deployment will be on a DigitalOcean Droplet, and it will be hosted there, and all the networking is done through Docker networks, and all the traffic is routed by Traefik. And some of the features that I wanted to have is for it to be publicly accessible. So you'll be able to go and hit some of the URLs, even if you want to follow along through this presentation. And secondly, I wanted it to be automated. So a lot of the tasks involved in deploying websites or applications are very repetitive. So I took the step to automate most of it. And for that, I'm using Ansible, as you'll see later. And also automate the SSL certificate generation and renewal. And also use OAuth for authentication. So a little bit about the microservices that we'll be deploying today is we'll deploy the Reaction API, which is a core API that provides everything for orders, products, discounts, settings, email. And then the other service is called the Storefront, and that is what shoppers and customers will interact with when they want to go in and shop for products. The other service is the Reaction Admin, which is used for shop operators to go and do merchandising and add products, remove products, etc. Manage orders, fulfillment. And the other service is Reaction Hydra, which is our authenticate OAuth 2 server that's used for authentication. And then we have an identity service called Reaction Identity that provides account services for customers, shoppers, and store operators. So a little overview of the architecture. As you can see, we have traffic here at the edge, requests coming in from a browser out there on the internet and coming in, and they can either go to the storefront or any publicly accessible endpoint. But in our case, it would be going to the storefront to add or to the admin UI or directly to the API. You can see a little bit about the architecture of Reaction. And we use Mongo as our database for the API, and Hydra, which is its own service, uses Postgres. And this will be a live deployment. So I'm actually using a URL here that you can all go and query, just don't break anything. And so this deployment strategy, we're just going to use subdomains for each one of the services. So we have one for the API, Storefront, admin, Hydra, identity, and Traefik for the dashboard. And if you want to follow along, you can go to this repository, which I'm actually going to go right now. And you can find this repository on GitHub, and it has all the code that will be used in this presentation. And you can find it at Reaction Commerce. That's our GitHub account, and it's called Proxy Traefik. So one thing that I wanted to mention in one of the previous slides was talk a little bit more about the Let's Encrypt features of Traefik. So let me just check my chat real quick. Okay. Sorry, I was just checking the chat because I see there were some comments. So Let's Encrypt. Just wanted to take a moment and talk about this particular feature of Traefik, because it did make it a lot easier for this deployment to make it a lot easier to generate those SSL certificates. And so Traefik will allow you to integrate with different certificate providers. For our case, I'm going to use Let's Encrypt, and we're going to use something called a DNS challenge to certify that we own the domain and that will allow Let's Encrypt to generate that certificate automatically. So whenever a certificate expires, Traefik will be checking for that, and it will issue a request to Let's Encrypt to renew that automatically. And all you need to have, the setup will already set that up for you. And another feature is that we're using wildcard domains. So as you saw in one of the previous slides here, we have all these different domains, and for each one of the subdomains, we don't want to specify that in the configuration every single time. So we're going to use what's known as a wildcard domain, wildcard certificate generation. So it will generate certificates for every single one of those domains without specifying that we don't have to specify every single domain. We just do what's called a wildcard domain. So you can take a look at the documentation here and how to set that up. So let's kind of talk a little bit about the code and how this is deployed. And so this is the repository checked out here locally. And one of the most important things that to take a look at is how the services are going to talk to each other. So Traefik uses labels to connect all the pieces together. So here is the Traefik configuration. You can see we have a lot of labels here, and most of the configuration has been moved to use labels instead of actually in the actual Traefik configuration. And so now we have what are called routers, which is, as I mentioned earlier, Traefik has great documentation on this, so you can go and take a look at that for more details. So Traefik, you can define a router, which also has an endpoint, and in this case, we're going to define that we have an HTTP endpoint, entry point, and you can define a rule that will match a domain. So in this case, I'm going to use a Traefik dot, and I'm going to substitute this domain for the actual domain at a later with the automated script, which we'll show more in detail a little bit later. And basically this configuration is just saying that we want to enable traffic, the traffic dashboard, and we want to redirect. There's another aspect of traffic that makes it really easy to configure. So one of the things that you want to do a lot, and it's very common to want to redirect all traffic from HTTP to HTTPS, and Traefik allows you to do that by using middlewares, which will intercept requests and, in this case, redirect to another entry point, to a secure entry point, like HTTPS. So this is exactly what it's doing here. So this middleware is going to redirect to HTTPS, and you have to define another entry point. So you have an entry point for unsecured traffic and an entry point for secure traffic, and you can redirect between them. And here we're configuring the TLS that we want this to be secure, and we're telling it that our TLS certificate resolver is going to be LE, which, if you look at the traffic configuration, we have defined a certificate resolver called LE, and these are all you can add this configuration. If you want to use the staging server, for example, if you're developing and you don't want to exceed the Let's Encrypt certificate generation, you can use this staging server. But for production, you can just comment that out. And your email, so that whenever a certificate is about to expire, you'll get an email notification saying that the certificate is about to expire. Storage, this says where we are going to store those certificates. You can see here, this is empty, but later on it will be filled out. And DNS challenge, this means that we're going to use DigitalOcean, and this is for generating the certificates. So in order for this to work, you will need a DigitalOcean access token or whatever other provider you have, but in this case, we're going to use DigitalOcean so that we can query the DigitalOcean API and ask it to authenticate ownership of subdomains. Cool. So this is the Docker configuration for our Traefik. And as you can see, we're going to have two networks. One is going to be called web, and the other one's calling it internal. So this the web network will be used for all the publicly accessible services, and the internal will be used for those that are private, such as databases and other services that we don't want to expose to the public. And you can toggle that on and off. So if you want to enable a service to be visible in the traffic dashboard or to traffic at all, you can toggle this flag. So once we have this, all these other folders here, they correspond to each one of the services. So as I mentioned earlier, we have the API and admin and identity and storefront. So each one of these files it only has, this will become a Docker override, which will add these labels to an existing service. And all it's going to do is to make this service available publicly. So it will add it to the web network. And here we're turning off Mongo, so it's not available publicly. And then we want to do our routing. So we're going to route all traffic to a secure HTTPS entry point. And we are going to specify our host. And in this case, it's going to be the subdomain API. And it's the domain, whatever domain you choose. And this is another way. So at this point of the configuration is we have how the public will access the service, and traffic will know about it by this domain, this host rule. However, once traffic gets to traffic, it needs to know where to send it to. And this is where the services come into play. And so now traffic has this idea of services and load balancers. So in this particular configuration setting, we want to tell it where to send the traffic to. And in this case, the API runs on port 3000. So we'll just route it to port 3000 on the localhost network. sorry, on the internal network. So, and that is repeated over all the services have a similar and I see that we have some questions. So I think we're going to respond to them later. Okay, yeah, so somebody's asking why are the, right, so these two lines are commented out because this Traefik also allows you to have basic authentication. And for the dashboard specifically, maybe you don't want to, ideally you don't want it to be available publicly. So you can uncomment these lines and then that will add basic authentication to the dashboard, to the Traefik dashboard. So you can set the user and password. I'm not going to do that in this case because we want to just make it available. This is for demo purposes, but if you wanted to do this for in a real deployment, you can enable basic authentication in that way. All right, so now that we have an idea of what the configuration looks like from the Traefik side, we're going to look at how all of this is going to be going to be executed on a server, which in this case we have a DigitalOcean droplet. A Ubuntu, it only uses one droplet, so all the services are going to live in that one droplet, which is enough for demo purposes. And the way we're going to do all the configuration is by using an Ansible playbook. And if you're not familiar with that, it's a way to automate deployments and automate server configuration. And I created this playbook so that it will do everything that we need to do, all the way from creating a user, a Linux user, and creating, installing all the dependencies for the reaction stack. So this is going to do all that. And all you need to do if you want to actually run this demo yourself is you'll need your DigitalOcean authentication token, which you can get from DigitalOcean dashboard, a domain that you manage. So you'll need a domain that you can manage and add subdomains. And you need a domain, a DNS manager that supports CA certificates. And DigitalOcean is one of them. And an email address. And that's essentially all you need to be able to run this playbook. And it will do all the configuration of the dependencies, and it will install the Reaction development platform. So it's going to go and clone all the repositories that we need to run Reaction, and also this Traefik configuration, which is this, all the configuration that you see here. And then it's going to go and set up all the configuration for each one of the services, setting the domains, the subdomains, and setting permissions and setting environment variables, etc. And at the end, it will have all those services running for us. So for the purposes of this demo, I didn't want to run that playbook because it takes a while to run, about 8 minutes. So I already ran it. And so to do that, all you got to do is from within the proxy repository, you can see that here we have a playbooks, right? So it's like the playbook that we're just looking at. So to be able to execute this on a server, we need to know where the server is. So in this case, we have I've created a sample server here in DigitalOcean. So I have an IP address that's actually a live IP address. So we're going to execute this playbook on this particular, against this particular server. So in order to do that with Ansible, you need to tell it what the the host is. So to do that, Ansible has this notion of inventory files. So like we need to know what servers we have, what hosts and servers we have available to deploy to. And we're going to deploy from our local machine to the server, to the remote server. So to do that, to know where we want to deploy, we need to create an inventory file, which you can do at You can put it anywhere. I put mine here, and you can see that I have one server, and I'm calling it a local host name of reaction.server. And with that in place, we need to know how to resolve that. So we need to add an entry to our host files, and which I've done here, which is reaction server will resolve to this IP address, which is the IP address of the droplet. Cool. So now, now we can just execute this playbook, and we'll do it this way. To execute the playbook, you just do Ansible playbook, and then you tell it the playbook that you want to execute. And this flag -L is to limit it to only this server, because with Ansible you can deploy playbooks to many different servers, but in our particular case, we only want to use one server. And I'm not going to do the execute that right now because I already did, and I didn't want to. That's going to take a while if it did it live. But once that executes, then it will set up an SSH user, which is going to be called reaction. So if we SSH into that machine, we'll see that now I'm here at the DigitalOcean server. And we can see that what it did is that it cloned the proxy repository, which has all the configuration for Traefik. And then we have the reaction platform already there. And if we go in there, if we go into the reaction platform, we're going to take a look around, and we'll go look at the reaction service. And if we look at the configuration file, you can see that the playbook went and did all the configuration for us. So it set the URL to my particular domain that I'm using for this, and other things that we needed to be done. So it did the same thing for, if we look at the admin, see that all the configuration is done, substitution of URLs, etc. So now if we look at what services are running and verify that they're running correctly. So I use this program called Lazy Docker to just kind of have an overall look of all the services. So here you can see that we have all the services running. We have the Storefront API, and you can look at the logs, if there are any, and we can look at so we can see that everything is running correctly. This one that's exited is just a migration server. So all the services are running as it should be. And if we go look at the proxy, which is the Traefik configuration, we'll see that now we have certificates generated for our services. So that's working as expected. And if we look at the Docker compose, we'll see that, well, I'll do that later. I didn't want to show my token, so I just exited. I forgot that it was there. So essentially all the services are running there. And so now we go take a look at the front end, we'll see that, is it this? So this is one of the services which actually can be accessed publicly. And this is the storefront. So this is where shoppers will come in and purchase products. And if we look at the admin, which is the other service that we deployed, you can see that it's redirecting me to the authentication server, and I was already logged in, so it logged me in automatically. So this is what the reaction dashboard looks like. And we're actually going to do something real quick. So I have one product that I've created, and kind of give you a high-level overview of the dashboard. So we have orders, you can manage orders, and And this is all open source, available for anybody to use. And you can create products, search products, and you can create tags, accounts, navigation, create navigation structures for your shops, and discounts, and all the settings, setting payments. So for this case, I'm using Stripe as a sample payment method. Taxes, shipping, I have a flat rate shipping method that I've set up for the demo. You can see all the information about this particular installation of Reaction. So we're gonna go and place an order real quick. So we're gonna go to the detail page. We're gonna check out as a guest. We're gonna use, and as you can see, it's all functional. So actually, you know what? So this is all a test deployment. So we're just gonna use the test credit card. Save, continue. I'm gonna place the order, and you get your confirmation. And you can go back to the admin. You can see that a new order was placed, and we can filter and search, etc. Just kind of a little high-level overview of what the Reaction platform is able to do. And yeah, actually, that was I forgot the presentation, but that was supposed to be my demo. So I totally went into the demo ahead of time. And so now you can see that the power of this, because now we have a deployment of a lot of different services all talking together, and with secured certificate and configuration. And Traefik definitely makes this a lot easier than other systems that I've tried to use. So we're going to go back to the presentation, actually, and yeah, so that was a demo. So actually, at this point, we're just going to open it up for any questions or anything that you guys want to talk about. So Patricia, I'll send it back to you.
Hey, cool, thanks. And thanks to everyone for your questions. I have a question, which is, what type of person would be best suited, or what type of company should be looking at using Traefik in this fashion?
Yeah, so it could be any company that wants to be able to deploy a services-based architecture. It's definitely one of the cases that I see that's best suited for, is that somebody has a product that is similar to Reaction, where we have a lot of different services that need to talk to each other. Traefik would be a great fit for that.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't see the boots we were talking about. Oh, Roam boot there. I like those boots. So, and we have a question from Fraser. How would the setup differ for production grade?
Yeah, so for production grade server, I mean deployments, that would, what we do is for demo purposes, we use Docker Compose, but for production, we use Kubernetes, because it provides a lot more security. And for example, for secrets and all the configuration that we're using environment variables for right now, we would be using a secret vault for that. And so the difference would be that it would need to be something like Kubernetes for our production deployments. Okay,
cool. And you're using Kubernetes over there?
No, for this demo purposes, it's only Docker Compose.
Okay, sweet. No problem. I personally don't have any more questions. If anyone in the audience has more questions, please go ahead and answer it. Let's see, Will, could you tell us a little bit before we wrap up about Reaction Commerce and really what your mission is in the ecosystem right now?
Yeah, sure. Um, Actually, I'll go to the, I believe I'm still sharing my screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So reaction commerce, our goal is to democratize commerce. So we want to be able to provide a platform that small businesses, mid-enterprise businesses can use for their shops. And we want to do it in a way that it's configurable and that it can meet, that you can take it as and develop it into your own e-commerce system. So a lot of systems out there, you have to do things a certain way, but or even adopt the whole entire stack. And so what we do is that we provide services that are specialized for one particular thing. So it might be, we have services for search, categories, tag management, and shipping, et cetera. And all those things they're meant to be put together so that you can build a system that fits your needs. And that's one of the things that we found working with a lot of customers, is that every shop is different. Every shop has different needs. And so they have different inventory systems that they need to integrate with. And so we just provide the core API that other people can plug in. So in a sense, we provide a chassis that people can plug in by creating their own plugins and build their own functionality and integrations on top of that.
Very cool. Well, I think this was great, learning about your services and about how you're using Traefik. What we're going to do now, everyone, is we're going to turn this into a cool video and post it to YouTube, and whereby you can leave comments. And I'm sure you can get a hold of Will on Twitter at Will Lopez with an extra Z.
Yes.
And check out Get Reaction, I think it's called, on Twitter. And that's about it. Then I'm on Twitter at Patricia_Dugan and at Traefik, of course. And we hope to see you for another meetup. And Will, thank you so much. It's been amazing meeting you. And I'm so glad to have made a new friend and Traefik ambassador.
Thank you. My pleasure, Patricia. Thank you.
Cool. I'll see you. A fist bump. We do a fist bump here.
All right.
Boom. All right. Bye, everyone. Take care.